The truly great fighters are the ones who are capable of having fun in the ring when they know they're ahead. And when Naoya Inoue starts to showboat, you'd better worry. There's nothing worse than an elite fighter hitting their flow state and then making you look foolish. For Inoue, it's like he simply can't help himself. He's a showman at heart, and it's one of the reasons he's one of the most popular fighters in the sport. Rising through the ranks with KO after KO, it wasn't long until he was spoken about as one of the finest prospects in the game. Speed, power, clean technical, fight IQ. Naoya Inoue very noticeably had it all in abundance, and his power translated across different weight classes too. And in many ways, his greatest performances were not witnessed until he actually fought bigger men. Inoue is a sniper, a brawler, a technician, and everything in between. And when he took on Paul Butler, he decided to put on a show. This is fighting his art. Let's go.
And I remember the ref counting, and I remember thinking, come on, get up now. And I honestly thought he was on about 3, and he shouts 8, 9, I thought, bastard. I just couldn't get up, and then I was probably still down for another 10, 15 seconds maybe, getting me breath.
Before he stepped in there with Butler, he destroyed several elite-level opponents in quick succession. Those who didn't know just how good Inoue was thought that Jamie McDonnell would give him trouble. They were wrong. In there with Juan Carlos Payano, Inoue seemed to be in a very destructive move, signaling his undisputed intentions to the rest of the division. With power like that, nobody was safe, and the rest of the flock were beginning to catch on. When he found himself in a grudge match with Emmanuel Rodriguez, Inoue had the perfect platform to make yet another huge statement. Too much speed, too much power. Inoue's offense is a multi-pronged attack, and these fighters have no idea how to address it. This was no ordinary fighter, folks. This was a guy who was gunning for GOAT status. But in order to be respected on that level, he needed to fill his resume with icons like Nonito Donaire. And believe us when we tell you that Donaire did not make it easy for him. No, this was the toughest fight of Inoue's career. But in the end, Naoya triumphed, showcased his grit and adaptability beyond any doubts. Compared to Donaire, Jason Maloney proved to be a walk in the park. Inoue was very clearly still leveling up, and the competition could do nothing but watch as he continued to soar. And watching Inoue absolutely butcher Donaire in the rematch proved his evolution beyond any question. So what could Paul Butler do in the face of such tremendous offense, defense, and intelligence? Well, make no mistake, this guy was tough, he was gritty, and Inoue probably was right to expect that he'd still be right there in front of him in the championship rounds. Could Butler be the one to thrill his devoted fan base with a huge upset KO? Well, only time would tell, but we're sure Butler and his team were quite aware of the mountain that they were attempting to climb. Round 1, Butler brought quite a lot of passionate supporters with him into the arena, but anyone with a shred of boxing knowledge knew exactly what was about to go down. Butler's fans were no doubt hoping that their man could spring the unlikely upset, but Naoya was not going to be denied. Even in round 1, you could see that Inoue was starting to get into his flow. Laser-precise punching and expert timing were the name of the game for Naoya throughout his career, and this fight was truly no exception. Sure, we all know Inoue is a fighter who makes quick reads, but even by his standards, was very clearly getting comfortable early in there. Round 2, Paul Butler desperately needed to earn some respect here against Inoue, because the Japanese fighter was only going to get better and better. Inoue loves trapping his prey. That's when he tends to unleash his best offensive combos. The question was not whether Butler could win, but rather, how long could he stand to the heart? Butler's offensive output was simply way too low at this point in the fight. Round 3, after a totally ineffective round 2, something would need to change for Butler in the third. We've seen Inoue destroy chins in the blink of an eye. Butler was basically a punching bag at this point. Inoue's fight IQ doesn't always get talked about as much as the other amazing attributes he brings to the ring, but it was on full display here. This is what a good, or even very good fighter trying to hang with a living legend looks like. Round 4. The corner of Butler very clearly had their work cut out for them. There's simply no way to game plan for this type of talent. Naoya was by no means landing his most devastating shots just yet, but this was slowly becoming a shutout. Paul Butler was learning all about the levels that exist within the sport of boxing. How do you even train for a guy this far ahead of the competition? In order to make things happen, you need activity, and Butler just wasn't busy enough. Round 5. You could actually hear Butler's coach trying to tell his fighter that Inoue's slowing down in a desperate plea to give him confidence. But that was never going to work. This was very clearly a very fresh and locked-in Inoue, and he was only growing more confident. Round 6. Round 6 was officially the point where Inoue stopped fearing Paul Butler. Whether he's fighting in front of a hostile crowd or a friendly one, Inoue remains one of the greatest showmen in the sport. However, don't mistake Inoue's demeanor for him taking his foot off the gas, because he was still on the hunt for blood. Round 7. The monster was a picture of confidence coming into round 7. Even as he pushed himself to claw his way back into the fight, Butler was met with very little success. Getting thoroughly beaten like this must be insanely demoralizing, not to mention a major source of fatigue. Inoue would clearly have welcomed an all-out brawl, but it didn't seem like Butler was willing to give him one, which was probably smart on his behalf. Round 8. Inoue was hitting a different level of flow state in round 8. Butler had likely lost every single round, but even as his desperation grew, there was nothing he could do. And just when things couldn't get any more bleak, Inoue decided to play some mental games with Butler. Inoue just needed to land one big punch, and Butler knew it, avoiding head-on collisions as much as he could. Round 9. It was more of the same from Inoue in the 9th. You can't criticize Butler for his toughness, but that's just about the only positive thing here. The footwork battle was yet another arena of this bout that Inoue was having massive success in, a crucial component of his dominance. The fans in the arena could sense that Inoue was building to something big. Round 10. Butler, against all odds, was approaching the championship rounds, and he was still on his feet, a commendable achievement, make no mistake. But Inoue was dominating every facet of this fight, mauling Butler on every possible level. Even in the rare moments where Butler landed something, Inoue made a point of punishing him immediately after. In other words, the monster was proving to be way too much for Butler to handle. Butler would survive until round 11, but trust us, there would be no judges' scorecards required for this one. Round 11, Butler may have been aiming simply to survive 12 rounds locked in there with Inoue, a Rocky Balboa-style moral victory. But in this 11th round, you could tell that Inoue's offense was starting to wear on Butler. The crowd could sense that something big was about to arrive. Thankfully, the referee understood just how bleak this situation was looking for Butler and decided to make the wise decision to stop the fight there and then. Butler was utterly mauled in this fight, reduced to little more than a human punching bag for most of this fight. He would return to fight 2 more times in the future, winning both, but he retired shortly after, understanding fully that he had hit his ceiling in the sport. Fast forward to 2024, 19 months after the Paul Butler performance, and TJ "The Power" Doheny, posing a threat to the monster himself, never stopped in his career. The Power deleted his last 3 foes before the 5th round, usually with a vicious, well-timed left hook, even destroying the Japanese Kazuki Nakajima on his rise. With a 77% knockout rate, Doheny undoubtedly had the scare of knockout more than any other fighter Inoue had ever faced. But this was for undisputed. After that back-and-forth battle against Luis Neri, Inoue was chasing greatness, a second defense of his unified super bantamweight titles. But first, he had to bulldoze the man in front of him, Naoya the Monster Inoue, having sent all his bantamweight rivals to the Shadow Realm and unifying all belts at the division, stepped up a new weight class to super bantamweight, where the monster crushed the division's king Stephen Fulton to win half of the belts, then unified all his belts in a brutal showing against Marlon Tapales. In just 6 months, the monster scored the first defense of his unified super bantamweight titles in that war against Luis Neri. Then for September of 2024, Inoue was booked against arguably the most dangerous puncher in the division, TJ Doheny. For a long time, Doheny was the forgotten man, Having only won the IBF Flyweight Championships, the Irish Power secured 3 wins in Japan to earn a shot against the monster. Doheny, in the biggest fight of his life, wanted Inoue's super bantamweight titles and hoped to land the final knockout, which Luis Neri failed to do in Naoya's last bout. Finally, at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo, Japan, from the walkout, the Japanese resembled a night monster, exemplifying in his attitude that he had come to put a villain-like beating on his opponent. But the Irish fighter was undefeated, 4-0 in Japan. The battle had a twist that nobody expected. Once the bell rang, Doheny acted cocky with his hands down. But shortly, he became a human punching bag. Inoue abandoned his jabs and attacked with big right hands.
Okay.
But the Irish Power, with a 77% knockout rate, possessed a vicious left hook that could shut the monster's lights. The monster soon increased the tempo to the adulation of the Tokyo arena. It shortly became a chess match in the center of the ring. With each shot, the monster came close to finding Doheny's power button. And the muscle-bound foe was now looking for a 5th corner of the cage to hide. The Irish tried his luck to terminate the pressuring monster with his insane left hook. But Inoue studied his timing and was now countering counters with counters. It was obvious Doheny was sitting on a time bomb. Stunning him with clean right hands. The monster's shots were smudging Doheny's bald head from all angles. But the Power TJ came back reinvigorated. But unknown to him, his death note had been signed, sealed, and would soon be delivered. The monster added extra torque to his punches, almost like Dohany's attacks had woken up his killer instincts. Big body shots was the start of the demolition. But Dohany complained to the referee, looking for a way out. Well, he was stuck in the ring with the monster, and he soon realized it was a do-or-die affair. Inoue missed slightly with a big right that could have sent Dohany straight to the Shadow Realm. But the shots that followed were way more brutal. The monster was not shy of eating Dohany's bombs just to land the finishing shots. And he showed Dohany true power. At the start of round 7, a wild combination of body shots made Dohany clutch his back like a grandma, then take a knee, signaling the end of the fight.
Round 7.
Inoue had given Dohany forced body reconstruction, and he struggled to walk back to his corner. In Mike Tyson's own words, he had broken his spinal and would need an urgent trip to the surgeon. But just how far do you think the monster can go in his fighting career? Let us know in the comments section below.